The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to today's Gold Group webinar with your host, Willie Miranda.
Good afternoon, Gold members. Thank you very much for coming on today's call. I have a very special call for you today. We have a guest with us today, but also not really a guest. I mean, he is a very successful coach member, platinum member. His name is George Lorimer, and been successfully working with George now over the last, I think 4 or 5 years on building his business. And I'm going to talk a little bit about George and actually interview George and talk about a lot of his different ways that he does his listings and what he actually does in San Diego to get the number of listings that he gets each and every year. So before I do that, I just want to give a little background. I know I had some people hit me up on Facebook and send me some emails. Back in January, I did talk about goal setting and the importance of goal setting and getting the goals down. I had a lot of great feedback and had received a lot of scans and emails from people who actually put together their 9 area goals, what they were going to accomplish for 2016, and it's really great to see that. And once you put it in writing, like I mentioned before, it becomes reality. Well, one of my goals 2 years ago was to actually go away and start looking at properties for down the road when I want to become a retired real estate agent and get out there and start retiring. You know, I'm hearing a little background noise on here, so let me hang on one second. Andrew, you still there? Let me see if I could shut that down for a second.
I'm here. What I've done, I went ahead and muted George for the time being. Let me know if you need help getting back online.
All right, no problem. Got it. Thank you. Okay, so just to give you some background on that, sorry about that. Getting down, one of my big goals was to get down to Florida, start looking around at retirement properties, and I know I'm still a ways away from that, but before you know it, we'll be here. So I just wanted to look at different areas, and my wife and I decided we want to go to Florida. And I was fortunate to be able to rent a place down here in Naples, Florida. And this is just a couple pictures here on the screen of my family. I brought my in-laws down here for a week, and my wife came down for a week and also another weekend. But it also allowed me to get down here and actually work on my business. We're working on a lot of different things at Miranda Real Estate Group, working on some different marketing, working on some different procedures. And I'll be sharing with that a lot of that with you on over the next few calls. But with that, it's been a great time. But I am getting a little itchy to get back to New York. It's beautiful down here, but I definitely want to get back to work. Missed the family, missed the team, and can't wait to get back. But I wanted to share those photos with you because I had a couple people want to know what was going on, and I had a couple other photos here to share with you too. This is the Burge Realty Group. There's Mike Burge and Cindy Burge. They're in the middle. With me down in Florida. They had a little mastermind here with a bunch of Florida Platinum Mastermind members, and they invited me to come in and sit with them for the day, and it was awesome. Great masterminding. We went over a lot of great things that everyone's working on. Then we were able, there on the bottom right, go out to dinner after and really socialize and network. And that's the real power behind masterminding, is being able to be in a format like that, learn a lot during the day, but also we learned a tons at dinner as well. And there up above, I was able to go out with Mike and Cindy for a little golf game. And ironically, Coach Joey Trombley was in Naples as well, visiting his daughter. So we grabbed Joey and went out there. But of all the swings and all the divots and all the other things that went on, Cindy took the crown. Definitely she took the prize, and she did a great job. She's a great golfer, a great athlete, and a great tennis player as well. But they... it was great meeting up with them and being able to mastermind with them as well. Just last week, or actually this past week, this last Tuesday, I see Kristen Stampini over here on the right. She's one of our platinum members as well, down in Boca Raton, Florida. I went down and spoke to her office, spoke to her team, and they all bought a copy of my book, and we talked about a lot of different things with referrals, building your business by referral, but also getting into a lot of great things with time management. So it was a great time, great area, and definitely something I recommend any of you who haven't been down to Florida to check either Naples or Boca Raton out. Great place. All right, so I'm going to jump in today's call because I got a lot of great information. I know George got a lot of great stuff to share with us. And here's a picture of George just over a year ago collecting his Quantum Leap Award with Craig and I up on stage. And George did a great job, had a great quantum leap over the years with his business. I remember when George started in coaching, he was a real good solid agent, doing about $8-10 million of business in San Diego. And then getting into the coaching program, getting into the gold program, then getting into the platinum program, he started to increase his business over the last few years, implementing a lot of the things that we talked about, and I shared a lot of stuff that I did in my business. He learned a lot of stuff that other coaching members and other platinum members were doing as well. And the result is that this past year, George ended up finishing up the year just under $30 million of business, about $28.3 million of business. So that's a huge quantum leap. And that's why he is our special guest today. And he's going to share with us, like I said, a lot of the different things that he does to market, to get listings in the San Diego area. But just to give you a little background on George, I mentioned already, $28.3 million man. This was an email that I sent out that a lot of people were joked with me about a little bit, but platinum member, San Diego, California, hard work and focus driven, and like I said before, one of San Diego's top real estate agents for many years, but the Peyton Manning of real estate agents, right? And why I said that is because George has always been a great student. Anytime we've had coaching calls, he always ends, okay, what do you think I should be doing now? What should I be doing next? And I give him 2 or 3 things out of every call, and he would just go out and implement them. I'd give him stuff, he'd copy them. Not only would he copy it, but he would just make it better. He'd just plus whatever I gave him. And that's what it really takes to get to that next level. And I always talk about, in order for you to stay ahead of other real estate agents that are out there, you have to be green and growing. You got to be out there. You got to be going to, mastermind events. You have to be going to super conferences and going to these different events, because this is where you find out what's working out there and also what's not working. And speaking of that, we do have the Anaheim conference coming up here in April. Want to make sure, if you have not registered and if you are a coaching member, you definitely want to get locked in on that. You can do that right onto the website and sign up. It's going to be the 14th, 15th, and 16th for platinum members. The diamond members will be meeting the 13th and 14th, but you definitely want to sign up for that. You can do it right on the website, and make sure that you get your travel arrangements done as well. So that's the quick housekeeping I should have said in the beginning of the call, but I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that, making sure that they get registered for that. All right, so let me just jump in a little bit more background. George is married, has 2 beautiful daughters. He works for Remax Solutions, and he's just newly authored of a great book for sellers called What Every Person Needs to Know About Selling a Home in San Diego. So he's going to talk a little bit about that and how he uses that. It's awesome to see that he's been able to not only develop his business, use all the marketing stuff, but now also author his own book to help other sellers out there, be more aware of how to actually sell their house, get top dollar for their home, and it really positions George as the expert in his field. So with that, I'd like to welcome you, George Lorimer. George, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks, Willie. Those were nice things.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and hopefully this was a good picture of you that we found on Google Image. So yep. I figured this looked like you. So I was going back through my pictures, George, and I saw a couple of them, and my daughter said to me, Dad, what was this, when you were back in high school? So there's no way for me to delete them off Google, but they're on there, right? So good stuff. So George, thank you so much for coming on today's call. I know this is a busy time of the year for you.
Me.
Yeah, it's a busy time of the year, and I know you have some great stuff to share on the call today. So we'll jump right in. There's a few questions that I always get when we're interviewing people on Live with the Leaders or on our goal calls, and there's always great information out there that everyone can contribute, and every answer is a little bit different. So I'm going to jump in right into our questions here, and the first question was, what's one of the things that you've done consistently throughout your whole career that's contributed to your success? And I know it's probably a big loaded question, but I know there's probably something that comes to mind when you see that question.
Yeah, definitely, Willie. I think it's to keep learning. I've been involved with Craig Proctor program and you as my coach for a number of years now, and that was even before I met you guys. I was very much into learning, and I knew that whatever I did in the business that I was succeeding, I needed to learn more, because there's people like you guys that have succeeded at a higher level, and I want to get that shortcut to succeed like you guys do. And I don't think there's enough time or enough years to learn all of it, so I needed to get your guys' training and programs so that I could shortcut our success to get as successful as I could, as quick as I could.
That's a great answer, and I've always said that. When I show the chart between what's the difference between a transactional agent and a career agent, the learning is the big piece of it, right? It's the education. So I said that career agents, they're the ones that are green and growing, right? They're going and they're seeking out all this information, and like I said before with you, is that you take the information, you utilize it, and you just make it better, and that's how you really grow. There's a lot of agents though, and I was talking to Andrea before this call came up, that registered for the call, and then all of a sudden they don't come onto the call live, maybe because they're waiting for the replay. But some of them, unfortunately, will never listen to the link because they won't listen to the replay. They weren't here because something else came up, and unfortunately, that they become ripe and rotten, right? If they're not going to keep going out there and make the time and make it something that's going to be important for them to grow their business, they're not going to be able to grow that business. So education is a big piece, and that's a great answer, George, and I thank you for bringing that up, because it's something that I think more of us need to be aware of what's out there and take advantage of it. All right, number two, what is your number one lead generation pillar?
So it all starts off of our referral newsletter, and the people we know, or the people, so the past clients, the ones we've done business with in the past. It's just connecting with them and making a couple of different offers using our USP, your home sold guaranteed or we'll buy it, and then also for our past clients or sphere of influence, offering them the same stuff that we offer other people, the Best Buy, the hot list of homes, to find out what your home is selling for in your neighborhood. So we reach out to our newsletter, to our sphere of influence, our past clients, and we load it up with USP offer, direct response offer, and then we add in some personal stuff like, hey, here's my wife, she's a teacher, here's my golden retriever, here's my 2 kids, here was us doing a charity event. So we load it up so we have all of the offers, but also who we are as people. So we touch on all the different personality types that people might have, like if they're more businessy, or if they're more of a touchy-feely type of person, like an S type of personality. We have a lot of the family stuff that would appeal to them.
Mm-hmm. And the facts are facts. I just got a copy of the latest 2015 buyer and seller profiles, and I think I sent you a copy of it as well, George. And if
yeah,
you look
I got
at
it. Thank you.
Yeah, over 70% of business, realtor business, has come from repeat referral business. And then the other 30% obviously comes from all the other sources that are out there. But that hasn't changed much. I mean, it's always been in the high 60s to even mid 70s. And some people don't realize that with the millennials coming up now, and it showed the millennials are ages 34 and below, that they're actually a lot higher. They're closer to 77% go by referral, which is kind of unique, because I always thought that maybe with millennials, high tech, they're online, or looking at internet, and they just pick an agent off the internet, and that's not true. They're going to social media, they're reaching out to their friends on social media and saying, hey, who do you know, right? They're looking for that referral, and it's something that I think we need to pay attention to moving forward over the next few years, because I just heard something the other day that in 2015, internet leads actually converted about 32% less than they did prior year. And that's because, just a lot of people going online and using that social media, but also I think it's that, more and more people are hiding behind, people don't even have phones anymore. They're using their cell phones. Right. They hide behind their cell phones. They're texting now. There's other ways of technology that's being used that we don't have access to. So I think it's very important that, if anything, taken away, like you said, and that's something I know that you took right away when we got working with each other, is that there was things that you were going after, all that new business, right, and going after different neighborhoods and going through the internet and all that's great, but we were neglecting your current database. And what we did is we said, let's keep doing all the other marketing that's working for us, but let's not neglect the 300, 400, 500 people that we have that we sold to in the past. Let's, when we send a piece out, a postcard or just sold card or a newsletter out, let's send it to the COI as well, and that's been a game changer for you.
Yeah, it absolutely has. And then, Willie, you and I have done over the past few years, and with Craig's system, how we've been talking about people as you raise up and do more production. And like, for example, you mentioned we author a book. People will come to you as you raise up in the business and do more business of who you are, not necessarily what you do. So to really leverage it, you need that sphere of influence, the raving fans, the Yelp reviews, the Zillow reviews, so that people will come to you for who you are, not necessarily what you do, and then you get a lot of transactions in your lap that are much easier than having to chase all of them, every cold lead, every internet inquiry.
Well, that's a great point. Great point. All right, well, let's jump into number 3 here. How do you manage your time? I mean, I just spoke to a bunch of agents down in Boca and also Naples. We talked a little bit about it as well. But time management's been something that really separates the people that are successful and the people that are always struggling, right? And we all have the same amount of time each and every day. But how do you manage your time? Like, what's the typical, day in the life of George Lorimer to be able to go from $8 million to $30 million? Like, what was the difference of your time as an $8 million versus $30 million, say?
Well, so you need to get rid of all those things that don't necessarily pay the bills. So, taking photos of houses, we don't meet the photographer anymore. We give them a code for the lockbox, or we have the owners meet them. We don't go on termite inspections. Very often we don't go on appraisals, things like that. We'll have one of our licensed assistants go on it. And so even beyond that, working with customers, really, you and I talked about a great showing system. We're licensed agents. We pay hourly on the showing system because if you work with people and show them, you're exhausted after showing 10, 12 houses in a day, and that person may not buy. Versus if you paid somebody to do that work and then you worked on the listings or on the sphere of influence or on the price reductions or negotiating contracts, there's a lot more dollar productive stuff. So I guess the bottom line would be, as I sort of got over having to do everything on my own and just made a decision that I got to get rid of these things if I ever want more, giving up doing the traditional open houses. You spend, 3 hours on a weekend, you spend an hour setting up, an hour breaking down. It's like 5 hours, you maybe get 5 people coming in and maybe 2 of them give you their name. I was doing that for a lot of years. And that's 5 hours of time is a lot of time in a week to give up for a very little productive activity on something that might happen with low odds of it happening.
Well, I remember actually like yesterday when we were sitting in LA at one of the conferences and we were going over your schedule, and we actually talked about that, and you were spending 3-4 hours running with a buyer here, running with a buyer there, and I go, what are you doing, George? Remember that conversation?
Yep, I do.
And I said there's really 4 things that you really get paid on as a real estate agent, and that's lead generation, right? That's making those phone calls and doing that marketing to drive leads. That's one. The second one is writing listings or taking listings and also writing those buyer contracts. And then the fourth one is negotiating. I really think that that's hard to really delegate negotiations. But, as far as putting a lockbox on or getting photos done or even showing buyers, right, that was one of the things that you said, really, can you really do that? And when you implemented it, it had a major impact on your bottom line because you were able to free yourself up to do more of the dollar productive activities that we just talked about versus out there spending 4 or 5 hours, sometimes 2-3 times a week showing a buyer home. So that's great.
And we work a big county, so it's a lot of driving. So one thing, Willie, so since I've got a small team that works with me too, so my next thing would be I tell my team, same thing that I did a few years ago. I go, it seems like we're spending all this time chasing buyers and going on things that aren't necessarily productive. What if we could really, just anytime we got like an inquiry on a property, we could just turn up the heat so we got more appointments, and if people don't end up buying or listing with us, we're just moving on pretty quickly for their schedules too, for my my outside agents, my buyer's agents and listing agents. And then, and then when I go on an appointment and I don't sign a listing, really being honest with myself, did I qualify it properly? Were they never going to list no matter what I said? Did I really have to go on that? Was it just a CMA appointment? Could I have emailed them something and followed up? So just being honest with myself on, and I guess doing the autopsy like you and Craig say, on is it actually bringing me more business? So in addition to me, I'm doing that with my team now too, because I feel like we're all doing so much, but we're not super productive.
Right, and you mentioned the autopsies. That's very important. If you're not doing that, I would definitely do that, especially for you that those folks that are on this call that are team members if you're giving out leads to team members, whether it be buyer or seller, and they don't get that buyer contract or they don't get that listing, it's always important for you to follow up as a team leader to that client or that prospect to find out, what was it that could have been done differently to earn their business. And even as a single agent, you should be doing that. And I was just talking to a broker in my area, my town, and she was on a listing competing against another broker, and unfortunately didn't get it. But she went right away and said, what can I have done differently to earn that business? And the answer was kind of vague that came back, but you want to get that feedback because it could be something, maybe the presentation wasn't there, maybe it was something you didn't were able to relate to them. Maybe they said, the marketing was a little bit weak or whatever. So it's something that you can work on moving forward. And I know 2 weeks ago, I shared with everyone our listing presentation, and that's strong. That listing presentation is very strong. And if you haven't downloaded that webinar or downloaded that listing presentation, you don't want to go into a listing presentation without that. And it's very important. And that's just one of the things that we learned early on, that when the agents went on listing appointments and when they weren't converting, what we found out, George, by doing these autopsy calls, we found out they weren't using a listing presentation. So nowadays, it's either use a listing presentation or don't take the lead. So great point.
Right.
All right, let's get into number 4 here. What percentage of your income do you put back into your business for marketing and different things for, I guess, advertising and marketing would be the same thing, but I know everyone has different numbers, and it's not even really more of an expense. It's more, you look at it as more as an investment than it is an expense. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we've talked about it, and I know some people, as they do, over $1 million or multiple million, the number goes down, but I am growing it. So I'm between 20 and 25% of the gross of putting it back in, doing mailers, doing internet, pay-per-clicks, all of that stuff, Willie. I think it's critically important. And, you talked about the whole referral thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're willing to pay a referral fee of somebody, why wouldn't you pay marketing to get you those leads to come back?
Right. Yeah, that was something that was one of those aha moments. I remember Craig talking about that early on, where it's so important to invest back into your business. And Craig said, let me get a raise. Everyone raised their hand. I'm going to go ahead and market in your areas. I'm going to come to your town, and I'm going to go ahead and market. I have this great internet site, and I have all these different ways of being able to attract all these buyer and seller leads, and I'm going to go ahead and do that in your market. And if I do so, and I get the lead and I send it to you, and you only, you don't have to pay anything. All you have to do is just send me a 25% referral fee when it closes. Who would be interested? And just everyone raised their hand, right? And he says, well, the reality is I'm not going to do that, but here's a system that's going to allow you to do that. And if you're willing to pay me 25%, why don't you pay yourself 25% and put that money back into marketing, generate your own leads, and give yourself that back. And that's exactly what I did early on. And it went from about 25% in the beginning to 20 to 15, and I think last year we just did around 10% of our marketing dollar went towards advertising. And it's very important that you invest back into your business, and that check that you receive on every closing is not your check. 10%, 15%, whatever, 25% of it should go into a marketing fund to grow your business. And I think that's one of the things, George, that you did early on as well, and you saw the return on that, and you continue to do so as far as investing back into your business.
Yep, and you got to think of it as an investment, and it's not fun sometimes when I do things consistently, but I know if I stop, I've been doing it long enough, I know if I stop, then that great lead system I had going will just dry up.
And I think it's important too is that you have to test things, and not everything is going to work, right, George? I mean, you've tried tons of things, and like, it just doesn't work in my market. And then, there's some things that you tried, and wow, it's a home run. So I always tell people you have to try things at least 90 days minimum, sometimes even up to a year. But you need to test, and test, and you're not going to know, and everyone's market is different. So. All right, well, let's jump into some examples, because I know some people do want to see some examples of what you're actually doing out there to get these listings or these sellers to list with you, to show yourself as being different than the other real estate agents in your marketplace, and why they should list with you over other agents that are out there, and especially in San Diego. It's a very competitive market where you're at, and you've been able to be one of the top agents in all San Diego County. So why don't we talk a little about this piece here? GeorgeHasTheBuyers.com. How does that work?
Yeah, so the way it works is, a lot of us, before meeting you and Craig and doing the whole system, we would go in and we'd tell people, hey, we'll do this to advertise your property, this to advertise your property. But the truth is they don't want us to advertise. They want us to have a buyer. And not even find a buyer, Willie. The sellers want us to have a buyer. So this shows that we spend thousands of bucks a month generating buyers, and then the buyers are searching, and it shows that we have over 7,000 buyers in waiting, and very often when we list a property, they'll match one or multiple of our buyers, and it will result in an offer immediately, sometimes multiple offers, and then we use that line, that Craig uses. If you should choose to list with me, then the first thing we'll do is we'll send it out to people within 72 hours, and a lot of times we get multiple hits and even offers out of it. It's kind of like we've been looking for a buyer for your home even before we met. So we show them this, and then we use this on expired and expired, cancel withdrawals, and for sale by owners as a back to one of the flyers too, so that people, because when we get calls from sellers, they oftentimes tell us, hey, do you guys have a buyer for my home, especially with the guaranteed home sale. So this is it dovetails nicely into that the offer.
So here's a question for you, George. I know we get this every once in a while, where you'll have a FSBO or you'll have an expired listing that decided, hey, you know what, all these realtors now are calling me, and I don't really feel like interviewing them. I don't really have that motivation to maybe put it on the market yet. But I'm going to I'm going to try to sell it on my own. And when these real estate agents call, I'm just going to say, hey, I'm not going to list it right now, but if you have someone and you have a buyer, I'd be more than willing to pay 2.5%, 3%, whatever the going rate is, and for that agent. But how do you? I mean, if one of those people were to get one of these type of flyers from you, they may say that, hey, you got the buyers, and I'd be willing to give you 2 or 3%. How do you respond to that?
So I would qualify their timing, motivation, where they're looking to move to, and then I would get a little bit of information about the house, and I would say, hey, sounds like a nice house, Willie. Would there be a time this week that I could come by and take a look at it? And then I would take a look at it, and I would start talking to them about all the buyers that we bring to the table. And so I think the first step on the phone call is I wouldn't be lazy. I would actually meet them face-to-face if they were sincerely looking to sell and the price was somewhere within the realm. And I figure if they're paying 2.5% or 3%, they're probably close to paying a couple half a percent more, or another half of a commission to be at a full commission. So I wouldn't eliminate it or say we did have a buyer for their home or didn't. I would tell them we need to see their home first.
Right, and that's where I wanted you to really go with that, and I was hoping you went that way, and I knew you would go that way because I know you're a great agent that way. But any of these leads that come through, and I hear some agents say, oh, that guy called, he wanted me, just give me 2.5%, 3%. I said, no way. I'm only going to do it for 5%, 6%, whatever the rate is. And they blow the listing, right? They blow the appointment.
Right.
So any type of sale or any type of lead that comes through an inquiry like that, that's an automatic appointment. And like you said, you treat them all the same, and let me come out and take a look at the property, because how do you know who to match your buyers up to if you don't know what your property looks like? And that gets you in the door, and you get to present your benefits, and from there, the listing presentation, I know you have a pretty solid listing presentation, is going to go ahead and convert that seller that thinks they could sell it on their own, and when they see all the value that you're going to provide to them to show them how they can get top dollar for their home, I know you have ways of showing them how that extra 2 or 3% you think that you're saving, you're actually going to lose, because we're going to be able to expose you to a lot more buyers. And then with this system here, having the buyers definitely is something that's going to trigger them to want to do business with you. So.
Right. Absolutely. So this is something a little bit different. And then one other thing that we tell them is we go, hey, we've been doing this, month after month, spending thousands of dollars reaching directly out to buyers in our market. and for many years. The thing is, if the other agent starts advertising your home this week, it takes on average 10 months for that buyer that's generated today to transact. So for whatever ad they put in isn't going to be for your home. It'll be for like 2 or 3 homes down the road that they sell. I actually have people that are on the back burner, and then those are hot, motivated, ready to go on the front burner that we advertised a year ago that are ready to go. So you basically, with timing, tell them, by us having the buyers and doing this consistently, we sell homes faster too, because if you start running an ad this week, you're likely to get a buyer that's 10 months off of buying.
I love it. I love it. See, that's where I'm saying. You always looking to plus these things, and that's a great transition. I like that. That's really nice. All right, great stuff, George. Well, here's the book, What Every Person Needs to Know About Selling a Home in San Diego. George Lorimer, MBA. So, George, great book. It's got great information.
Thanks.
I actually got a copy of it and looked through it. And it's got some really basic but really good information for sellers on like aging their home and pricing it right, and what they need to look for in a real estate agent. And tell us a little about how you use this book to get more listings.
Yeah, so we offer it to people, and I was telling you about how we want to be recognized as the expert in the market. And once you become an expert, you don't have to compete as much for them to choose you versus another agent, and also you can get a premium fee by being the expert. So what I'm really is I want to, like you and Craig always say about selling in a vacuum, I want to make sure that I'm the sure choice when people are thinking of choosing an agent, and then also it's a good lead generator for people who want to gather the information but they're not quite ready at this point. So it creates lead generation, and then it's a conversion tool for people who are thinking of listing with an agent.
Yeah, we have the same book, and one of the things that we've always done well with it is that we use it as a what we call a thumb factor, right? The thumb factor is being able to go on a listing appointment, sit there with your laptop or computer, and be able to take that book out, and instead of just giving them a business card or giving them a folder with a bunch of stuff that they'll probably never read, to be able to just thump that book right in front of them and let them know that here's a book that you actually wrote and that you're the author, and that all kinds of people are looking and getting great information from this book. It really sets you apart from the other agents, because I know, at least in my marketplace, I think there's maybe only 1, maybe 2 other agents that have their own book, and I know that when we use it, people do love it, and it really sets us apart from the competition. So I don't know. I know you just started using it not too long ago, and any other stuff you'd like to add about the book, or any other comments on that?
I'm excited with it, and I'm excited to offer it to all of our sphere of influence or our past clients. And one thing I was thinking about is a lot of people want information, but they're not necessarily going to use us or their other agents. So I think it's a good way of us to say, hey, we only have limited quantities of this, so we're free to offer it to any of our loyal clients or people who will be our future clients who are looking to buy or sell within the next year or so. So if that's you, definitely request it. We'll give you a free copy. But if you're an agent or you got somebody else that you're working, unfortunately we don't have enough quantities to help you. So hopefully it'll qualify people out of it that aren't going to be working with us down the road.
All right, awesome. All right, good. And I know I have some information if anyone's interested in getting a book like this, because I have it, George has it, and we have a few of our members that have it. I can give you the contact of the person where you can get your own book done. For a few $1,000s, you could be an author of your own book, and it's something that I think that every business professional, whether you're a real estate agent, dentist, attorney, whatever, you should have your own book. And it's really your calling card, right? It's really just an elaborate business card, and people do love it. All right, next one on here, your sign. And I was looking on the buyer profile, and sign calls, believe it or not, are the third most, I guess, as far as the percentages go. I think there was referrals, there was repeat business, and I want to say sign calls is right under there as one of the biggest forms and biggest ways of generating leads. And I know that Craig's taught us over the years to not just have a sign out there, but to have some other eye-catching riders on there to get buyers to really call you, and that's what we want them to do, right? We want the buyers to call us. We want the sellers to call us as well if they see that there's a home that's selling. So maybe you can go over a little bit about your signs here and what those riders mean.
Yeah, certainly. So Craig Proctor 101, we have the USP, which takes that individual house in that sign, only that buyer interested in that one house. It makes a universal offer to somebody who's going to be both buying and selling, so a move-up buyer. So we like that because we get their listing and then they buy a home from us and they call us up and say, how does this work? And say, it works great. You have a house to sell, you're looking to buy a house, and they say, well, what will you buy my home for? And we say, well, have to take a look at it. When's a good time for me to come by and look at it? So that's how that top rider works. And then the bottom one, the way that one works is that's if somebody's looking, instead of if that property is sold or pending, this sends us to a VIP buyer landing page so they can tell us what they're looking for. And then we'll call them up and then we'll put them on a search and meet with them and that kind of thing. So it takes it from that individual home, which hopefully we have priced right so we get a lot of action on, and then it makes a couple of a seller universal offer on the top sign rider and a buyer universal offer on the bottom sign rider.
All right, that's great. Now I see a lot of signs out there, George, maybe not in your marketplace, but I know in our marketplace where some agents just don't believe that the sign generates a lot of business for them, and they don't. Again, investing into that sign, like you have to signpost. It's a professional-looking sign.
Yeah.
It's an oversized sign. I see a lot of people still just sticking those signs in the lawn, and especially in upstate New York, when it snows. I mean, we haven't had too much snow this year, but all of a sudden the sign is missing. It got hit by a plow truck.
Right.
But it just doesn't look professional. But is there any other benefits, or I guess really what it comes down to is with these sign calls. Is there any benefit for a seller not to have a sign on the lawn?
I don't think so. Some people are very private, and we, of course, respect their wishes, but it's, it doesn't make any sense if you're going to sell your house. Everybody knows that it's on the market. And I'll speak to what you said about doing things nicely, like with the post. I'd rather us get premium fees and commissions and spend a little bit more on everything that we do because I know that our margins are going to be much higher. So we do like a fancy virtual tour. We do like a drone and an aerial view, and we do pretty much we have a platinum package that we offer people that's the premium, and we've got a gold package and a silver package. So we've got a couple of different pricing within the listing. And very often, if somebody is going to go really cheap on it, we probably will still charge them the gold but give them the platinum service because we know that however we market the home, whether it's a sign, whether it's the virtual tour, professional photos, aerial view, drone, we know that that reflects upon us. So that's one tip is we pretty much always do a nice job so it looks good on the internet when people see it, or in front, or brochures, full color. We want to do things top notch because we never really want to be we never want to do it for low cost because we'll not make any money on the commission.
Exactly. And why I said that, too, is because we just had an agent ask me a question about that last week. They had two sellers that said they didn't want to sign, and I told them absolutely not. I said they have to have that out there. And not only that, but it shows that 30%, according to this buyer profile, of buyers said that they actually saw the sign as what drove them to that property. Just driving around neighborhoods and seeing the sign is why they called. So I tell the seller, do you want to miss out on 30% of the potential buyers that are out there? And when you kind of drive it down into numbers, they didn't really realize that a sign was that big of a deal. So I'm glad that you also agree to that, and it's something that I really feel that's got to have a nice professional sign out there too. When you see signs that are out there that are hanging over, or they're spinning on one little hook there, you got to get out there. You got to fix that because that's your image, right? That's your image,
right?
And you got to make sure that. And not only that, the other big key item to this that I learned by doing surveys. We survey our clients when we close, and in the beginning, I had 2 or 3 that came through that said that everything was great. They gave us a 10 on pretty much everything that we did, but in the comments they made reference that the one thing they were really disappointed on, that there wasn't a sold sign on. In other words, once the contract went under contract, got through attorney approval period, they wanted to show off to their neighbors or friends, that they got it, that they wanted that sold sign out there. And at the time we didn't put it up because we wanted to keep getting those buyer calls coming in. But when we heard that, we changed it, and what I found is that we still did get buyer calls that came in, but then we also got more seller leads that way. More sellers would call us because they would see that we sold something in a property fairly quickly, and they saw that sold sign on there for weeks and called us when it was time for them to put their house on the market. So just a quick tip I wanted to share with everyone there. Okay, this is a CD. No, this is I believe this is your seller's package, correct?
Yeah, so this is our home seller kit, sdhomesellerkit.com. And so what we do, Willie, is, I told you we've got a ton of CMA leads that we do online, that kind of thing. And so we have a bit of a challenge. I mean, we get hundreds a month. So how do we just think somebody's interested in it, or are they actually going to do something? So we take them from the CMA, and then we offer out a home seller kit. Because everybody, whether you're selling or not, might be interested in knowing what your home's worth. But what this does is we reach out to those people and we say, hey, would you like our home seller kit? Includes your 27 quick and easy fix-ups to sell your home fast for top dollar. We have the pricing and preparing your home to sell DVD, and we have an accurate estimate of what your home will sell for in today's market. So those together are called the home seller kit, and that's our challenge. Is we got a lot of CMAs, but we don't know if the CMAs, maybe only a small portion want to sell. So the people that ask for a home seller kit, we're assuming they want to sell. It's in the name, right?
Right. And I find too, and I think you do the same, is that when people kind of jump through that hoop where they want more information from you, and they actually go online and fill out the information and give us more detailed information as far as their mailing address, their phone numbers, you find that those are really good leads. Those are going to be your better leads.
Yeah, this one is maybe of these ones, Willie, in the last month, out of, we probably only got, so we get maybe 150 CMAs a month, and we probably get about 6 of these, and of the 6, we probably get 3 listings.
Yeah, they're solid.
So we know that these are money. If these are, if somebody fills this out, it's really important to call them right away and set an appointment. They're very close to listing.
And the key thing I want to mention on here too is that we don't want to just give out all this information for free. It's great to get that information out to those sellers and get them to raise their hand. But our job as salespeople is that we want to obviously, if they are looking to sell their property, we want to be able to list their home. So you should never send someone or give someone something without receiving information from them. Even if you go to, say, an open house, right, and you're doing an open house, and you're not just going to sit there and just say, here's a free book on how to sell your house or how to buy a home and give them all out. You want something in return, which is their information. So what I've told agents, maybe go out with one book or maybe one flyer. If you don't have a book, you have some type of report, or maybe if it's even the report of other houses that are in their area that are for sale, and just let people know, hey, I got this, I only have one copy here, but where can I mail it to, and what's a good number to contact you at? And at least that way you're getting that information from them and you're able to follow up with them. Don't be that that secret agent or that agent that's just there to give stuff away and then you don't have anything to follow back up with. That's a huge mistake. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. And I don't know why people do it so much. They want to be liked, and they get used by people quite a bit. And I think it's since we do it every day and we do it for a living, we got to be smarter than the consumers. So I think we always give them free information, but if they tell you right up front that they're working with somebody and they're 100% committed and they still want the info, I just say, I don't want to step on that person's toes, but if you think that we have an opportunity to earn business with you, then I'm happy to have a discussion about it. But it's just to give it to you when you're going to be working with somebody else doesn't seem fair to me or them.
Yeah, great point.
So I'd cut them off.
All right, great. Well, before I go into this next slide here, I do want to remind everyone that if you do have any questions that you'd like to ask George directly, please type them out in the question box on your screen, and we'll get Andrea up here in a few minutes to look at those, and we can get myself and George to answer those questions for you. Okay, we have a report here, Lorimer report, market report, and how do you use this, George?
So this is pretty cool. This gives, for every zip code in every city in San Diego, it gives you the median and the average price of homes, number of solds. It comes out every month, and it's awesome, and it's kind of like a core fact type thing. So they use all that data where you can get instant CMAs and stuff like that. So I like it because I send it out and I do it per area, so I look like an expert regardless of the zip code or the neighborhood within San Diego. And I send it to whatever area they're asking for. I pull where it says all cities, all zips. I put in the proper city when I send it to somebody. And then a lot of times, Willie, this is the cool thing. When you're sending people CMAs or the newsletters that we do every month online, I screen catch this thing, and then I put a hyperlink. And so then when people go to it and they get an email or a newsletter from me, they'll click on that hyperlink, and it will take them to that page. And so I get a much higher click-through rate because they're clicking on the icon of the data and the figures. But then they have to register to get all of it.
Awesome. Okay, great piece. And what was that again? You said core data?
Yeah, so like core data is that thing where they do postcards and you can put in a code number, like, and then it'll give you your home sold, kind of like a Zillow estimate, but it's, I don't know, it's called core data, and it uses the tax records and realist stuff. Here is what we use. So it's basically, you don't have to send them the CMA. They'll have all the data exactly for their neighborhood, like an overview too.
And an important thing I think to really point out here is that, you have your USP on it, you customize it with that. So that's something that I think a lot of people just leave it custom and just put their name on there, or just, put type of slogan on there. But having that USP right up top like that is, I'm sure, something that will get more phone calls and more people to request more information.
Yeah, and that was something that I had used it a while, and I looked at it and I go, man, I have no USP here. What if somebody just gets to this site? So yeah, you have to figure out within the confines of all the things we use to put it somewhere.
All right, awesome. So we got some tips. I asked you to send me some tips that you had on listing tips, and we're going to go over some of those in a minute here. But I know that we have some newsletters and some different things that we're going to show as examples. But before we jump into that, Andrew, do you have any questions in the chat line right now?
We actually do have quite a few questions. Do you want to go ahead and address them all right now?
Well, let's address as many as we can, and we'll try to get through them quickly because we are racing for time here.
Okay, you may have already addressed some of these while I was gone, but Dana says, is this a success site or Commission Think?
Which one? The
one
we just looked at?
One. Yeah, probably the
last one. Well, so what I do is if you go to georgelorimer.com and they click on it, then they go to this page. But it's actually a different data, but I frame it within my Success website. So if you go to georgelorimer.com and you go to, on the right-hand side is San Diego Market Stats, and then Success has framed it for me. And I think this is, once you click to it, the actual page within the site. And they've got like Northern California, Vegas, and San Diego, and Palm Desert. So they don't have a ton of areas that they do this, but I'm sure they have data elsewhere on it.
And Dana is clarifying the buyers in waiting.
Oh, the buyers in waiting is Success. Yeah. The okay, this is kind of funny. The buyers in waiting. So yeah, George has the buyers.com. That's a Success website page. And then the actual data of all the people searching on there, that's a Commissions Inc. site, but I've got the exact same thing with over 8,000 people on my Success website too, on my HDX within Success. But that one happens to be, the graphic on that one is Commissions Inc., and the only reason is because you can actually see it clear. The Success is more spread out, and Commissions Inc. is kind of tight, so people can see it better when I do the screen capture.
Yeah, and the bottom line, and I don't think it really matters if it's Commissions Inc. or Success Website or where it comes from, Market Leader, Boomtown. All of us, especially as agents, if you've been around over the last couple of years, whether it's Craigslist leads that you're driving in or whatever, you should have a lot of internet leads from the past, and you should have them all in one database, whether it be Top Producer or like George has his now all going into Commissions Inc. But whatever that may be, you need to tell the sellers that you have them. And that's the most important thing there. You need to be able to leverage that, because I see so many people not talk about that, and they have thousands. I mean, one agent I talked to the other day had like 20,000 leads or buyers that have come to his website over the years, and he's not even using that in his presentation. So it's very important to show that. And I know that's probably one of your signature pieces, George, by able to show them that one sheet and say, we have the buyers. That's strong. It makes you a lot stronger.
Yeah. And Andrea, here's another thing that we do on that, or Dana, on the buyers in waiting stuff. So if you go to Success, if you have a Success website and where the leads are, and you go into the lead report, and then you can go in, and one of the tabs is like a buyers in waiting type of tab, and you can export them into an Excel sheet. And then I actually, from Success website, I take all of the leads, I have thousands, and I print probably a year and a half worth of them, and it's maybe like 50 pages, small writing in an Excel sheet, and I clip them with a binder, and then when I go into the listing presentation, that summary page is for a mailer, but I actually bring the stack of 50 pages and put it on the table of our buyers in waiting and leaf through it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And Success has a way of, you can just go in, and it's called like buyers in waiting under your lead reports, or you can just print them or export them to Excel. So it's way more powerful to have the physical thing. The only reason you guys saw the summary and not the physical thing is because we're not face-to-face, and then we use that summary page, goes in the mail to people.
That's a whole other thumb factor right there, just giving that 50-page report and just dumping that on the table. All right, let's jump into the next question. Andrea?
Okay. Jim types in a couple of things. I'll go ahead and put them together. He says, great idea, but how do we write our own book? And I remember there's a company that does a newspaper from the Gold Coaching. Do you know, Willie?
There is, and I forgot the name of that now. I don't know, George. You remember that paper that was out?
Yeah, I think it might be in-house publishing or something like that.
Yeah, I think it is in-house publishing. I will find out, Jim, and let you know. Also, there is a lady that has in Diamonds when we actually put these books together, and there's a lady that did those books for us. She customized them so that you have like your information on there, you have your own cover and that type of stuff, and it's based on areas. So if anyone on this call is interested, I'm not going to get into all the details right now, but at the end of this call, I do have Trish's email on there. You could just email Trish, and I'll make sure to forward you her information. But it's the email address for Trish is tlouks, so it's TLOUX @mrgteam.com, and I'll have that up on the slide at the end here. So let's jump into the next question.
Okay, this is our final submission. It's more of a comment, a verification. Pedro says the site George is referring to is corefact.com.
Okay, good. Yeah, and that's what George, I think he did mention that, is where he's getting the data from. Is that correct, George?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a hand raised from Jim whenever you're ready for that, Willie.
Okay. All right. I'm ready for Jim.
Okay, hold on one second. Jim, you're live on the call, on the webinar. Jim, you raised your hand. Your line is open.
Hey, Josh and Willie.
Hey, Jim.
I have a question. I'm one of the RE/MAX agents now, and I just recently got my broker license, and I want to get your feedback from what you're doing so well on your own. What is the reasons why you want to stay with RE/MAX versus Willie, you have your own brokerage firm?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I guess I could just say that everyone's a little bit different. In the report that I just mentioned, the buyer profile, what's very important for you to look at in that is that when a seller is looking to list her home with an agent, their top like 4 criteria was all about knowledge, trust. They were referred to the agent. It was all these different things that you wouldn't think about. And when it said, what made you, was it based on the association, like what the agent was associated with, what company they were with, how much of an impact did that make in your decision? And that was only 4%. And I realized that way back when I got into getting my own brokerage in 2002, that percentage was closer to 3%. And I just found myself just paying a lot back over the years, and I wanted to put that back into marketing. So I made a decision to go out on my own. Sometimes I think back, George, and say, geez, did I make the right decision? Because it is a lot to do. And there's a lot of, either you're a broker or your agent, and there's so many distractions. I was fortunate to have really good staff and people to help me build it out. But my point with that, Jim, is that there's I think, and I'll let George answer for himself, but if you're a brokerage and go on your own, there's a lot of other things that you don't really factor in that come to play. And sometimes being with a RE/MAX company or Keller Williams or some of these other carriers that are out there, depending on, if you're a big agent and you're doing the type of volume that George is doing, a lot of times they'll give you a really good split or a really good, I guess really a really good split and a really good deal. And that's sometimes when you weigh out the two options, some decide just to stay as an agent there versus going on their own, because there are a lot of expenses that going on your own. So George, maybe you can answer that.
Yeah, that's mainly it. If I was to go on my own, it would be, I wouldn't want to do like a broker. I would do either basically a team for everything that I do. And I've got a team right now under the RE/MAX brokerage, and maybe sometime in the future I'll do it. But at this point, it works well for me, and I look at it, and I don't want the additional rent that I have to pay for an office space or the staff that I want for the office. I already have, I have a couple of assistants that work with me, and I actually do pay a lease space for my own place, but it's very independent. And then my broker's a good guy, and it's just something I didn't really want the extra, I guess, the overlay of responsibility or financially to have my own thing. I wanted to just sell more houses, and it's going well, and that's it. Maybe sometimes down the road, if I'm making, I don't know, $2 million in commission, maybe at some point. But it seems like if you want to work for a brokerage, most of them will cap out if you're a real successful person. So I don't, if you want it because they're a hassle and they're not letting you grow your business, or maybe if you want to have it as your own name and do things your own way, then that's certainly a reason to do it. But just money-wise, if it can be, I think it can be the same even under a big brokerage company.
George, a great point. That's exactly why I went on my own. I wasn't able to do some different marketing I want to do. They were giving me some issues with the guarantee sale program. So I decided to go on my own, and no one could, at that point tell me what to do. So, but I think it's just personal preference, Jim, and I think that's really the right answer, is that everyone is different, and, there's a lot of pros and there's, a lot of cons to either way. So hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, anything else, Andrea?
Yes, we had something that just came in chat from Brenda. What type of information could Trish be contacted for?
Well, if you have any questions, I would just recommend sending them to Trish. She's my assistant, and she'll be able to get them to me, and I'll be able to point you in the right direction. So it really doesn't matter. Whatever information or questions you have after this call, by all means, email Trish, and I'll be able to handle it from there.
And that's it for questions on our end.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, let's get down into these. We'll go rapid fire through some of these. A lot of this we've already talked about, but we'll get through it because I know there's a couple more pictures and examples here of what you're using. So number one, this is probably one of your biggest one, your SOI, right? The center or that sphere of influence, and also your PC newsletter. So just let's rapid fire and we'll go through them.
Yeah, so sphere of influence, past client newsletter. I do direct mail once a month, and I do, probably 3 emails a month. And then I include real estate market stats. I have personal info, charity, family, testimonials are a big one. It's always me in a picture of somebody hugging them, and we're holding a sold sign. And George sold my home at a 101% asking price in 6 days. You know, whatever's relevant and more recent, and then we always include a USP on that, a unique selling proposition.
Okay, so here's an example of the front cover. You do a great job putting your USP on top, like you mentioned. You have some cartoons in there. You have some call to actions with finding out, you know, what your home is worth, and also, you know, thinking of selling your home soon, which is great. And then you give them a little background on what's going on in the marketplace there.
Right.
Again, some more direct response here, where you have, you know, a nice bright yellow right in the middle of the page, so they can see, you know, how they can search for properties. But on the bottom there, you have, you know, things that you're doing for, you know, like you said, charities and that type of stuff. But you have your family there, right? You have a family and things that you're doing. That's something that I picked up from Dan Kennedy years ago, where he said that 60% of your newsletter needs to be really non-real estate related. It's got to be more about you. People want to feel part of your community, and that's what you've done with this, George, where you've actually made this newsletter. You're like the published author, and you've been really, I mean, I know you said you just came up with a book and now you're an author, but you've been an author right along by publishing this newsletter each and every month, and people get to know who you are. And again, people do business with who they know, like, and trust, and this is a great way to be able to do that each and every month. And you've done a great job with that. You know, you have client events. This is your pie event that you did, that you gave out to them. And I didn't see the charity event on here. Was it? I thought it was Alzheimer's.
No, yeah, I have some. Yeah, no, we had. Well, that's an Alzheimer's one, but we had one called Chelsea Run, and then we have another military one. So yeah, I guess just different ones. This is and this one doesn't have a ton of market stats, so I'm not sure. We have different ones, have different kind of focuses on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this is, like I said, a great example. And if you're not doing a monthly newsletter, you need to start one. And there's, you know, different places that you could do templates. But I recommend 60% of it be more personalized, and then you could put in there editorials. You could put in there, you know, display type ads like George did here, because you want to have a call to action, and that's the most important thing. You want them to get them to raise their hand. But you also want to talk about what's going on in the market, and that's what George was mentioning before. And I know some of the stuff that you have with the market stats, and I know your email has a lot of the same information that you're emailing your whole entire list, because you can't afford to mail out to, you know, 7,000, 8,000 buyers. But point is that you're getting this information out to your best customers, right, your A clients, and you're also getting it out to your best prospects, the people that said, yeah, I am looking to sell my house in the next, you know, 6 months, next year, and those are the people that get this in the mail. It's getting in their mailbox, and then the ones that are just part of your email drip campaign are getting this directly to them, and you even add a video to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, I got that from you, Willie, and we do like a 2 to 3 minute YouTube video, and you know, we were sending them as a link back to the YouTube, and I don't think that's a good idea. So now what we're doing is we're putting it on a page in Success website where they click on the email from Constant Contact or whatever, and then it'll just go to Success, and it'll be hosted on that. So it'll be basically figure out the online newsletter will be a web page, and then they can just watch the email on the web page, and then so there'll be a form right next to it if they want more information, or so we can increase our response instead of them sending a link to YouTube and then there's no form if they want additional information or resources from there. Awesome.
Okay, great. All right, let's jump into number 2 here, geographic farming. Talk about that.
Yeah. So this is big. So I get a lot of listings this way. I've focused on 2 zip codes. So I sell all over town, but I've got 2 that I mail to every month. And I either do the home seller kit or a CMA offer to a farm, and I also show evidence of success with sold stuff. And I do it branded. And I don't get a ton of CMAs, but I get a lot of come list me's. We've been getting stuff for you for years, and we want to talk about selling our condo. Our tenant just moved out, stuff like that. How does this guaranteed sale work? How does this 29 days work? A lot of those questions that we close for appointments.
Now, you'd be interested to hear this. They've interviewed thousands of sellers each and every year, right? NAR does, or NAR, I should say. And what they come up with is that, you know, they do these stats, and they said, you know, how many agents did you actually interview before listing your property? And do you know that 70% of the survey said that 70% only interviewed one agent, and another
Yeah, I did know that.
you see that, and then another 17% would interview two agents. So that means that, you know, it's 87% chance of them only interviewing one or two agents. I want to make sure I'm going to be that agent, and this is a great way, George, for you to stay top of mind with that seller prospect for years. Like you said, you're hitting the same area over and over and over again. You become, you know, the expert in that area, and this is why you're getting more and more listings in that area. Now your sign comes up. Now your just sold goes out. I mean, it just keeps going and going and going. And that's why you just keep building that listing inventory, because you keep solid in one area. And that's in my book that I talk about how to not get your ass kicked in the real estate business. And the first chapter I talk about lead generation, and the fourth pillar is geographic farming, and that still today works. We use a lot of the same close cards that Craig had taught me back in 1998 when I first started with Craig, and they still work. And this is a great example here. This was your old USP, correct?
Right. Yeah. I use a guaranteed sale now.
Yeah. But this is something I know that you used back then and got results from it. And then the guaranteed sale program just puts you on another level with it. So, all right, good stuff. Great stuff. Number 3, online CMA through Facebook and Google.
Yeah. So we use bold leads and prime seller leads, and we go through, and we just basically get a whole lot of CMAs, and we look up all the numbers for people. We call them. We set the appointments that those are looking to do stuff. We put them on our mailing list, and then, and then we try to step them from a CMA to a home seller kit that I discussed earlier, because anybody, even if you're going to be selling or not, can be interested in the price of your home, CMA, but the next one is we want to get people actually interested in selling the home seller kit.
Yeah, and a great point to point out here is when you're dealing with referrals, I mean, you know, you're getting anywhere between, out of 10 leads, you're probably going to convert 6 or 7 of those into a listing, or definitely get an appointment and turn them into a listing. When you get these type of leads through the internet and through Google and Facebook, it does take a little bit longer to transact, as right. George mentions here. But also the conversion rate, I mean, may only be 2 or 3%. So out of 100 leads, you may only get, you know, possibly 2 or 3 sales from that, versus a referral where your transaction is a lot better. So it's very important to have, like George has on here, you know, looking up the phone number so you get them on the phone directly, sending that video email out to them, doing the mail follow-up, and just staying in front of them, because if you don't do that, you're just wasting your time on that. But know that the 3% or 2% is all you're going to get from that. I see so many agents, you know, take 2 or 3 months, they start doing these ads, they start getting all these leads, you know, 20, 30, 40 of these leads a month, and then they stop doing it, and I asked them why, and they said, oh, the leads were terrible, they sucked, I didn't get anything from it. And I'm like, well, you have to know what the expectations are of those leads. And George, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but I think, am I off base on those numbers?
No, well, what I listed last week, I have 5 offers on it. I listed it, and the guy had come April of last year, had come in for a CMA. My callers had been consistently following up, set an appointment for me, and I just went over and got it listed, you know, like a week ago. And multiple offers, like I said, 5 offers on it. So that's not unusual. So the thing is, you have to play the long game on these. You got to hop on them quick, and the few that are ready to set an appointment, get it set up and get it signed. But the bulk majority of them, you can't be too hot and heavy if you haven't qualified them as a 30-day, 60-day seller. You have to play it back a little bit. So you got to get on it really quick, qualify them. The hot ones, shoot really hard to get a face-to-face appointment and get them listed. The ones that aren't, back off, and then do like a 30-day follow-up, CMA every 30 days, call every 30 days, so that it's just like a consistent longer term, you're a resource. So you really have to, you know, have a different approach with different types of leads. Absolutely.
And just curiosity, how many agents did that seller interview?
I don't think any. He didn't speak English that well, so I didn't ask.
But he knew you. He knew who you were.
Yeah.
You guys followed up. You got his newsletter. Right? So that's, again, they do business who they know, like, and trust. And obviously because you've educated them on the market now over the last, say, year, They feel they can trust the information you're providing, and they see the success you're having in the area, and that's what people want. They want to do business with other people that are successful and getting a home sold. All right,
Yep.
Number 4.
So buyers. So target move-up buyers to get listings. Look for buyers that have homes to sell and give them hot lists of what they want to buy. So I do this through Success website and mainly through Facebook. It's a very low cost per lead, but when I search on Facebook, you can search on some of the demographics. I look at people that already are homeowners. So I'll do a zip code search. In our area, the median price homes around 600, 630, and so it's an expensive area. Well, I'll advertise an area where the new construction is like 800,000, and then I'll put within the zip codes that these buyers looking to move up to these properties, and then I'll also say they have to be homeowners. So I know that if somebody's buying an $800,000 home, they're probably selling a $500,000 home, and they wouldn't be seeing my ad unless they owned a home, but they're not responding to the sell, they're responding to the buy. But I know that if they're going to be looking at the $800,000 home, they got a home to sell down the road. So it's a longer-term prospect, but the demographics are good, and we're the natural foot in the door on the listing side for that one.
George, you're like a mad scientist. See, with all this extra time and not showing buyers tons of homes, you're able to work on this stuff.
That was a long explanation, but you guys get what I mean, I think.
Yeah, and there'll be replays, so if you didn't get all that, you can listen to it on the replay. All right, number 5, and I think this is our last one on here. Sellers.
Good.
Sellers. To get more sellers, offer some sort of USP or guarantee, and I think we talked a little bit about that, but why don't you go ahead and just take a quick minute on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Craig Proctor 101, come up with the USP, a reason why they choose you versus doing it on their own or doing nothing or somebody else. So, home sale guarantee or home sold guaranteed, or I'll buy it. You and I talked to Willie when I moved into Platinum, and we just said, what are we waiting for? Let's do it. So we did the guaranteed sale, but after years of not doing it. And so then I used to use your home sold in under 29 days guaranteed, or you pay no listing commission. Your home sold at 100% asking price guaranteed, or I'll buy it and move up to any of my listings, and I'll buy yours for cash. So all variations of the USPs.
Right, and all of them have conditions, and conditions do apply on any offer. I don't care if you, get an offer on the back of a cereal box. Everything's going to have a condition to it.
Right.
So we don't have enough time in this call to go over all those, but they work very well. And again, it's to get the buyer or the seller to raise their hand, and it makes non-buyers real buyers, especially with the guarantee sale program. And it's worked great for us over the years. And yes, I've purchased homes. I don't know if you've had the delight of doing that yet, George, but I could say that every time I bought a home, because it's done right and there's a system that Craig taught us, I've never lost money on it, and I've only really gained money on all of them. Actually, the last one I did was a break even, but that was because I didn't follow the rules and I had someone else price it when I was away, and that was a big mistake. But other than that, works very well. And I don't know your experience. I know when you switched from the 29 days to the guarantee, you saw a major difference in the number of calls that you were getting.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if they call in the guarantee but they're not moving up to one of our listings, we'll still have some sort of guarantee for them. I got one going right now where sold 100% asking price guaranteed, or we'll pay you the difference, and came in over asking price, so I get a full commission. I had 3 last year that I sold that were either less commission or maybe sell for no commission because of a guarantee. So
Awesome.
Out of the 70, some 72, I had 3 that were kind of freebies because of that. But they allowed me to, I did multiple transactions on it.
All right, awesome. All right, so we'll go through some of these tips, some of them where we talked about free up your time, using a showing agent, assistant, or a team member to help you with sellers. And, we talked a lot about that already, whether you're buying, or dealing with past customers. But really, using someone like that, whether it be a showing or listing agent, is very important. You mentioned keep, referring to the Craig Proctor and some of the stuff that I've done on the referral coaching side, and adding new marketing. That's definitely something that has kept you going, and we share a lot of that, both Craig's stuff, and a lot of Craig's stuff is my stuff. I mean, that's where I got it from. But I also got a lot of it from the insurance business, and made it more of a real estate friendly, and have been using that as well over the years. But I guess the last two on here, you mentioned continue working on your presentation and materials. Maybe you can add, just chime in on the last two comments there.
Yeah.
Last two bullet points.
All right. Yeah, so continue working on your presentation materials, USP, and your attitude. So, you know, people join Craig's program and they get so many more leads, but not necessarily more closings initially, because they get more shots at bat, but they may not be better agents or better presentation, because I know here in San Diego we compete with so many people all the time. So if you're getting more leads but you're not good at either converting it to a face-to-face appointment or converting the appointment to a client by having them sign a contract and giving a dazzling presentation, you're going to have a big issue. And the issue is not really with the system or getting the lead. The issue is with you improving and being able to win the business from another competitor. And so nothing will work. So as your leads go up from, 20 a month to 100 a month, you'll get that many more shots. If you're no good on the phone or face-to-face with people, you're still going to get no more deals. You'll just be a lot busier.
Great point. Great point. All right, and the last one, as far as being competitive with other agents.
Oh, all markets are competitive, yeah. So come up with a plan that enables you to win most of the time. So what we try to do is have a bit of a range on the commission for people, so that we want to work with people, and we'll come up with a plan that works with them on the commission amount. I hate to be, undersold. We want to be on the premium side commission-wise, but we also want to work with as many customers as we can. So if somebody wants a slimmer commission, then, I told you very often we give them the platinum service at the gold price, but sometimes people just want something inexpensive, or it's a simple transaction, or perhaps they're going to price it real competitively, or they're selling it to, their tenant, a friend. So we basically have some flexibility on those items so that they can choose to work with us. And I guess we come up with some tailoring, whether it's a listing program or commission program. We do offer a cancellation policy for people. So we want to win the business. So I would be a little bit flexible and come up with programs that you think will work for sellers.
And what would you say the two biggest reasons why you lose listings?
Yeah, commission and price right there. So, like I said, we're coming up with two strategies to solve both of these. A big part of it is if you're getting a premium fee on what you do, you have to qualify it better. You have to show value face-to-face, because once you're gone and they're just shopping your rate, if they don't sign with you at that time, the chances are lower that they'll be signing with you. If they've taken the conversation from value, hey, we add value to it. Cost is only, what is that expression that Craig uses all the time, Willie?
Cost is only an issue in the absence of value.
Yeah, so it's just tough for you to, if they're just comparing the commission rates and you can't articulate why you get people 2% higher, you have these buyers in waiting. So you really have to be able to articulate it when you're face-to-face with them and have them make a decision to choose you. So it comes on pre-framing your pre-listing packages, the book, sending out a whole lot of good stuff so people are pre-sold prior to you going in, and you can get a premium fee. And then, be confident in discussing the price and letting the customer choose, but framing the discussion to set out to sell it in 30 days or less. Because on a lot of the comps, we really are the professionals. I don't want to give them a million comps. A few are adequate. I might have the rest in my briefcase, but I really want to frame the conversation around something that's going to help them succeed. And sometimes if you give people too much data, they get overload, and what's the other one? The confused mind does nothing.
Exactly.
So make it a very, when you're presenting it on a listing, make it very, and be be assertive or aggressive. So you shouldn't just be sitting back. You should be moving it forward, doing the presentation, and then asking, am I the guy that you want to handle the sale for you? And then once they give you a yes, then talking about pricing, and then talk about fee at the end.
All right, awesome, good stuff, and it's definitely something that I know I've been watching it over the years, and it works for you. I think this is a big one right here, being confident and not giving the exact price on a listing. We talked about it a couple weeks ago on my listing webinar. You want to give them a range. We could start at the higher end of the range, but if you really want to get this thing sold quick and under 30 days or less, we need to be at the lower end of the range, and that's exactly what you're pointing out here. And I know it's worked very well for you. So with that, I don't know if we have any other quick questions on here, Andrea, that we can end up. I know we're coming up on a 90-minute mark, so we got maybe 3 or 4 minutes left.
We only have a couple. We have Marcel. What is a CMA?
CMA is a cost market analysis, and this is usually a document or a report that we give to potential sellers to give them an idea of what the active, pending, and sold sales are in their market area, and it determines basically a ballpark figure of what their home would sell for in today's market. So that's really the best definition I can give you for that.
And then we have a question from Wally, but he has left. Would you like to go ahead and address his question? Even though,
go ahead.
Okay,
Yep.
Where do you get your newsletter, or do you make it yourself?
We made our newsletter for a while on our own. It's a Word document. There's several companies out there. Newsletter Pro is a company. They're a little expensive, but they do a nice quality newsletter. Service for Life is another one for real estate agents. But the thing with this is that you don't want to use a boilerplate type newsletter where they're just going to, put it out to the masses, right? How many times do you get these newsletters in the mail where, it's from your CPA and has pictures on it and it has his information on it, but it's all this stuff on tax code, and the whole thing's just filled with all kinds of tax stuff that you're not going to read.
Pretty lame.
Pretty lame, exactly. But if it has stuff like, George out there drinking a beer on a boat with his clients and enjoying a great time, like, people want to be part of that community. They want to be part of you. They want to know what's going on. Like, one of the things that I do in my newsletter that I got from Dan Kennedy was my wife puts in a recipe in there every month. Now, I know Craig and a lot of people talk about recipes don't work, and we always talk about that. But it's not just a recipe that you get from Pinterest. It's a recipe from Sherry Miranda, my wife, right? So it's in this, and she's talking about what her kids like and what Willie likes, and what was in her generation, that type of stuff. And I can't believe all the different comments I get from the people that get that newsletter from my COI and also from my farm area, because it goes out to my geographic farm. Her and I could be walking in the neighborhood, a total stranger comes up to us, they know who we are, and they always point around and say, hey, I like your recipes, I love your crock pot, whatever, chili, or, your dessert pizza, and these type of things. So, that's when it's really working, and that's what people want. They want to feel part, they want to know, like, and trust someone to do business with, and you want to make 60% of that newsletter more personalized than you do making it more, industry specific. So I hope that answered all the questions. All right, so to request a replay link for this call, I'll be sending one out regardless, so you don't have to, I will be sending, if you're on this email and you got the invite for this, I'll be more than happy to send that out to you. But if you want to send Trish an email, any other questions that you may have, it's tlaux@mrgteam.com. Please allow a couple days. I am away from the office, but I will get back to you usually within 24, 48 hours. And we'll get whatever question or answers that you need and point you in the right direction with that. So with that, George, I want to say thank you very much for taking valuable time out of your day, and I want to wish you another great year here in 2016. And as my book says,
you too, Willie.
Get out there and kick some ass in San Diego, and we'll see you in Anaheim in another month or two.
All right, sounds great.
Thanks a lot, George. And Andrea, that's it for today. And Andrea, thank you very much for answering all those questions today.
Thank you, Willie. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a wonderful afternoon.